So, we finally got a fire going. Finally got the stream going. Maybe it'll be an alright night. What the fuck is that? Hello, Margot. Tell tales, tell us clips. You gotta live. Get those things that are hard to miss. Like my ripple off all your weekends gone lost by the lake. Said you got nowhere to be. Hello, hello, hello. Normally you say howdy, though. Hello, hello. Another cozy live stream. That's true. That's true. Very cozy. The vibes will be immaculate tonight. Some of the best content comes next to your trash fire. That's really funny, actually. It's fitting, too, if you think about it. Like, the thing that makes me the most interesting out of all the things that I've gone through in life and all the different facets of my life, by far the most fascinating is the fact that I was a dirty kid for a couple of years. I guess I'm just an oogle now. But I think there's something about being next to a fire, even though right now it's not being stoked by trash. Right now it's being stoked by, well, sticks. But there's something about being right next to the fire that just elucidates some of my best content, I think. S'mores sounds so good. Well, like Margot said, I do burn trash in here sometimes, so it's not exactly a s'mores pit. It needs cleaned out and probably... It probably just needs heavily cleaned out and then like some fresh soil from somewhere else on the property dumped in the bottom. Are you Christian? Sorry, just want to know. Sorry, no, I'm not. No, I'm not a Christian. Pretty staunch atheist. I think the Christianity on the whole is one of the less good ideas that we've come up with as humanity. I do want to update you guys on the goals. You guys are now only $200 away from getting the documentary watch along where we watch The Power of Nightmares together. Sorry. And you're only 100 away from the bad food goal, which I have not talked about a lot, mostly because I want it to be a surprise, I guess. Not a surprise, but I just don't want you guys to, go be able to spoil yourself. What's the fun in that? Okay, so I gotta fix my fire real quick. The big main stump is just crouched over on me. Autogynephilia isn't a real thing. It's just something conservative dudes tell themselves so that they don't have to seriously address their own internal gender dysphoria. The cat's away, the mouse will play. I'm sure we've got other mods, even if Margot's driving. We've always got a few. Are you struggling to breathe? Maybe a little when I lean over like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of fat, so when I lean over and compress my body, it does make it a little more difficult for me to breathe, yeah. But I'm not out of breath, just putting the logs in there. It's just a matter of physics. The fat kind of scrunches up against your diaphragm when you lean over, as a fat fuck. There we go. And the Lord said, "Let there be light." Oh, they can call me huge if they want to. I am fat. I'm not so fat that I, lose my breath just stoking the fire. But yeah, I mean, if I lean over like this, it's going to make it a little harder for me to breathe. Fantastic bait, no notes. The best bait in the world is not bait at all. It's just good content that you should watch. What you smoking? Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy? I'm smoking on that Iran war pack. Pronouns, she, her, hers. How's that Iran war pack? It's smoking, I'll tell you that. So, Trump has been all kinds of schizophrenic. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, if you've been paying attention to his Truth Social posts or what he's been saying to the media. He has been all over the place in the last week with the Iran war. He's declared victory 17 times. I'm starting to call them Chinese victories because it's like China's final warning, how they've issued 1,700 of them and they never lead to anything or go anywhere, Well, Trump keeps declaring these Chinese victories that don't mean anything. He has gone from saying the United States Navy itself will protect transiting oil ships in the Gulf to saying the Gulf will open itself to saying, well, other countries are going to have to police the Gulf. And on that note, apparently Australia and the UAE have struck a deal to protect the strait. Now, I find that rich because, number one, Trump is apparently unsanctioning Iranian oil, so I don't even know, like, whose oil are they going to be making sure gets out of there. Apparently everything's going to be allowed to go through, except the Gulf countries, who are obviously going to be disallowed by Iran. But how the fuck is Australia and the UAE supposed to protect the Strait of Hormuz when the United States Navy itself isn't even willing to do so? I don't know much about the Australian Navy, but I think I'm pretty safe in assuming that it's less powerful than our own. We love Trump. Trump is my goat. If you don't have anything meaningful or intelligent to say about politics, just say that. Just say, I'm a backwoods hick, I don't know shit about politics, and I probably shouldn't talk about it. It's that simple. You ain't gotta lie to kick it. Iran was enriching uranium according to the guidelines set out by the IAEA. They were following the treaty that they negotiated with America until Trump decided to rip it up. Even if they are enriching uranium to develop weapons, ultimately, so what? Do you actually believe that Iran wants to conquer the Middle East? Based on what? Their rhetoric doesn't suggest that. Their state policy doesn't suggest that. The most you can say about Iran is that they want to support proxy armies throughout the Middle East to fight Western hegemony and Western influence, which is true. It's also the same thing America does when it supports militias all over the world to get behind its chosen Western-backed government. We do the same exact shit that we get so pissed at Iran for doing. And that's ultimately the most you can say about their global conquest vision. Whereas America actually wants to own fucking Greenland. We actually want to own fucking Venezuela. We actually want to own the whole of the Middle East. We want to establish Greater Israel and bring the rapture upon the world. Iran is right to call us the Great Satan because lately we haven't acted exactly contrary to that motive. We could choose to be different. We could choose to be different. Are you done hating on your country? I was, but now that I know it pisses you off, I think I'll talk about some more problems that America's got. You guys notice how fucked up our roads are? You guys ever notice how absolutely garbage American roads are? How decrepit the bridges are? You ever notice how, you'll drive into a city and it just seems like there hasn't been any significant substantive development on anything local, real, or artful in 20 years at the most recent? I wonder why that is. Could it be that our politicians don't give a fuck about us and our voters are too worried talking about whether trans women should be allowed to go to the bathroom or not to give a fuck about the state of their own country? It seems to me like it might be a pretty predictable outcome of that. There are a lot of ugly condos now. That is true. The one thing America has continued to build are ugly, completely artless condos. In fact, it's become so weird and unusual to see any kind of artistic energy put towards the practice of architecture that anytime I'm driving around in town or something like that and I see a multi-family dwelling of some kind being constructed, or a multi-unit housing project being constructed, and I can tell there's some art to it, it literally makes me unreasonably happy because I'm like, oh my god, oh wow, this neighborhood's gonna have some energy and some life in it. But it's so rare. It's so tremendously rare. The buildings look like Nike shoeboxes with windows. Yeah, literally. They look worse than Nike shoeboxes with windows. Nike shoeboxes have some like stylistic shit on them. They've got like a logo on there. These don't even have like basic corporate like schmaltzy art on there. It'd be one thing if they had like shitty, like a sort of like shitty and inhuman corporate art style, but there's like literally nothing. There's no, it doesn't even seem like, it doesn't even seem like a creative was involved along the process. I hope you're prepared for an unforgettable luncheon. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Because they want money, it's simple. That doesn't actually explain it well enough. No, this is actually one of those instances in which, like, yeah, the profit motive obviously plays into the overall situation, but this is one of those instances where I think there is an active willingness, an active desire, maybe even on the part of a lot of these rich fucks to just like be artless. They don't have to be. A lot of them went to colleges where they were exposed to lots of artful people. They choose to be artless pieces of shit. I think I think there might even be some kind of like greater overall plan with it all. Like they want to get us accustomed to a world where nothing means anything and nobody cares and there's no art in anything you look at or anywhere you live. And so you continuously learn to expect less and less. And you continuously put out less and less in terms of your creativity. I don't know what the end goal to that would be other than to, I don't know, make it harder for people to, well, there you go. There's the answer. I just thought about it. It's to make it harder for people to mount effective protests and sedition against the system of capital. Like, the more artful a society is, the more easily it can resist fascism and the creeping dominance of capital. So, of course, they want to make an artless society where no one cares and no one loves and no one sees anything beautiful in the world. Might as well be their perfect strategy. $200 fucking billion to make Trump's pee-pee feel big. We could have had high-speed rail for that, bro. Across the country fast as a plane, but cheap as hell. Crazy. $200 billion would not be enough to, like, build high-speed rail across the entire country, but it might be enough to get us halfway there with the first, like, transcontinental high-speed line. I haven't done the numbers on it myself, but I'll tell you this much. $200 billion is an insane amount of money, and the military-industrial complex is one of the least efficient spenders that there is. Like, in every other industry, you are expected to get more out of your money than you are with the MIC. The MIC basically exists to suck up American taxpayer dollars, the money of people like you and me, and turn that into dead people and overspent money. A void full of profits and shareholder bonuses. Make sure you guys hit that like button, by the way. I haven't pimped it that hard this stream, but that's probably just a mistake of mine. Please hit the button. It really does help. Every single time you hit that like button is another chance to stream out to even more people, which increases the quality of your viewing pleasure by increasing the number of people who can engage in the chat. 200 billion, but we can't cancel student loans. Yeah, $200 billion for the Iran conflict, and now they're asking for 800 billion. But 200 billion, let's just go with that number for the Iran conflict. But we can't have universal health care, even though $200 billion would pay for millions of Americans' health care under the current system. Fuck, let alone if you put that money towards developing. The $200 billion would be enough to develop and implement like the system that would be universal healthcare. Obviously, there are other things you would have to do, like to fund that in perpetuity, but like that's just one example of the way we could have spent this money that would have been so much more intelligent. You could have paid off the bottom 50% of America's collective debt with that, student loans included. You could have like fundamentally reset the American economy to be more worker favored for at least the next 20 years, just with one distribution that was spent on the military industrial complex instead to kill off people over there that I ain't got no problem with, that you ain't got never had no problem with, and to kill off people that live in our own fucking country who volunteer bravely to go serve their country in an official capacity and end up dying in a foreign war that we had no business being in, that is explicitly being done for religious and economic reasons. I like someone actually politically defensive, so even if I don't agree, I like your stream. That is, I think, why so many people like my stream, is the fact that whether you think I'm right or not, I will defend what I believe in. I'll make a case. I'll argue with you. You had me till you lit the bowl, then you ruined it. Well, I guess it's just ruined for you then. Indeed, Riley, we do have a beautiful fire going on tonight. In between reading chats, quick update on the dono goals. $200 till you guys get a watch along with me of The Power of Nightmares. It's available for free on here on YouTube, so I think I'll be able to get away with it. That'll be really fun. I'm gonna also postpone the dono goal until Wednesday, because I feel like it's definitely not going to be reached by Sunday. But I want you guys to reach these goals. I want them. I want to do them. But I also understand the job that I work, and so I have to set them behind a paywall. You understand the gig. With all that being said, consider liking the stream, and let's dip back into chat. I'm guessing you're pro-abortion. I certainly don't like the idea of, like, abortion as, like, a concept. I mean, like, when I say that, I don't mean that I find anything morally wrong with it. I just mean, like, my heart hurts for people that have to go through that. It sucks. So it's not exactly like the most pleasant thing to have to defend viciously, but I do, because I think that ultimately a person's right to have that procedure should always supersede any moral concern we might have for the potential human being that is represented by the fetus or the embryo in the pregnant person in question. Do you think it's killing a human? No. No. No more than jerking off and wiping your, like if you're a male-bodied person, like jerking off and wiping your cum onto a paper towel and throwing it away. That's not, I don't think that's killing a human. But there's every bit the potential to become life in that sperm that there is in an embryo. I mean, like most pregnancies end in miscarriage. Like, I'm not, maybe not most pregnancies. That was wrong. Most fertilized eggs end in nothing. Like nothing happens. They don't. Um, what's the word? They don't adhere to the uterine lining. The right conditions aren't present, and that fertilized egg just gets flushed and washed out with the, with their monthlies. But like, if we're going to extrapolate personhood onto like an embryo, exactly how far do you want to take this? It just seems like a silly argument, because ultimately most abortions happen within like the first few weeks of conception, before like we could even argue that there's the possibility of a human life there. I mean, I guess there's like the possibility, but I feel like it's the same degree of possibility that exists with like your baseline gametes, which pass on their own with no action from you. Like, even if you don't jerk off, eventually you'll have a wet dream and you'll What will you be committing a genocide when you do that? How far into the pregnancy are you willing to allow an abortion? It is a difficult question, right? Because, like, I understand at least why it's a difficult question. Like, I think the only, like, truly logical answer that leaves room for the fact that there are people who have their baby die inside them in a condition that doesn't allow that baby to be passed normally. In a condition like that, I mean, I guess in that case it would just be considered like a stillbirth, but like there's an argument to be made that there are medical situations that could require someone to get an abortion long after they've already grown attached to the pregnancy. And I just don't like the idea of to a adding on to a grieving mother's troubles by making it so that the abortion procedure she needs to save her own life and to possibly be able to have kids again just isn't available to her. Everyone is out for themselves. I literally don't believe that at all. Everyone is out for themselves is an excuse that selfish people throw out into the world to justify their own selfishness. I firmly believe this. You work for yourself. You are out for yourself. You think, fuck you, got mine. I think communally. That doesn't make me better than you. Actually, it does. But you can be better too. It's not like it's something that's gated to little old Phoebe Ophi. I'm not that smart. I am not that fucking smart. I've just seen it work in practice, and I've also seen it described in theory. Those two things put together, I think, makes for the pretty good workings of a model we might base our lives on, or at least model some of our decisions off of. Man, this is just such a bitter thing to say, Pigeon Butt. Everyone believes in a fake version of themselves they were tricked into believing could be real. No one has the capacity of being humble or open or kind. Keep looking on your phone claiming to be. I'm not going to claim to be like the most humble or kind person out there, certainly. I'm certainly not all that humble. But I do try my best to be kind. I definitely try my best to be generous and giving of myself and what limited little bit I have. And I've met a lot of other people that are like that. And that's both their outward personality and their actions. You can say that's just fake, but frankly, I don't give a fuck if it's real or not, if the real world consequences of it are that people are nicer, that they do more for one another, that they work together towards the betterment of society. It's the whole point of this project. What do you mean by this project? Civilization, of course. What else could I mean? I don't mean my channel, I mean civilization. The whole idea of having a government and having a society, the whole idea of having a democracy, is making a system that works for people. least that's supposed to be the idea. Increasingly, it looks like I'm kind of alone on an island in this perspective. I feel like a lot of people, I really do feel like a lot of people increasingly view society as mainly a vehicle to make themselves wealthy. And I feel like this mindset is taking hold even amongst regular ass poor people who stand absolutely no chance of ever making themselves independently wealthy unless they get insanely lucky. It's a really stupid mindset to have if you're rich, but it's an especially stupid mindset to have if you're poor. If you're poor, you really do need to be looking into ways that you can work with your neighbors. You need to be talking to your neighbors. You need to be working with community orgs. You need to be giving back. You need to be out there with your people, because that is how you build solidarity. That is how you build networking and community. And that is what you need if you're not a rich person more than anything. Because eventually all this shit's going to come crashing down. There is only so there are only so many foreign misadventures that America can get up to, only so many things we can drag our allies into, before eventually they will be sick of us. Before eventually the world's economies grow sick of us. And one by one, countries start switching off of the dollar. And slowly but surely, our country's no longer the provider of the world's global currency. And just like that, American debt suddenly becomes a very important issue. But there's nothing in place. You can't cut enough social programs. Did you know that? You literally can't cut enough social programs to make up for the deficit that we've built. You can't do it. There's no way. The only way is to raise taxes. But the billionaire class will let America burn to the ground before they raise taxes. And as a result, they won't do that. They'll just literally, the government will be non-functional as an entity, but still taking taxes out of your paycheck. The last functional entity of the government will be the IRS, and it will primarily exist to satisfy foreign debts that the former American government held to all of these countries. There will be a balkanization of the United States that will split us up into like 4 different countries, and that'll be that. The Great American Project will be over. So we need to be looking for ways to survive that transition. People that aren't rich need to be looking into ways that they can survive. Already, the war in Iran has shown us the vulnerabilities and how we get our food and how we live our lives. And if we don't start making changes to some fundamentals, not only is nothing going to get better, but there will be very few of us to survive. Jesus ain't coming back. Jesus ain't real. I'm telling you, you need to get real. There are old-ass Christians in their hundreds right now wondering why the rapture ain't happened, who believed it was coming since the 50s. You understand that? You understand that there are literally people walking around today who've been alive for fucking 80, 90 fucking years, and they've believed that the rapture was coming since the 70s. You are not the first Christian to ever think that the rapture is right around the corner, and you will die seeing other young Christians in your time making that same stupid argument and excusing their unwillingness to engage with the actual real world with this fanciful pie-in-the-sky divine bullshit. Oh, we don't need to worry about the planet because God's going to come save it all. We don't need to worry about the planet because Jesus is going to rapture us all up to heaven. Get real, born a boy and thinks he's a girl. I don't know if you're just like retarded or illiterate, but there are literally whole compendiums available online that can explain transgender people to you, and the science that underlies our experiences, that verifies the claims made to discuss trans people. So this is like literally a thing you can educate yourself on. It's not something you have to look like an internet dumbass for. You could just be smart. You could. You don't have no soul? None of us have a soul. The soul is one of a complex of myths that are made, that are literally intended to make you not think critically about reality, to make you soft and pliable, to make you easy to exploit for the oligarchy and the clergy. I do believe humans have a spirit, but I think that is to be engaged with during your lifetime. Waiting for the afterlife is a fool's errand. I have a genuine question for you as a trans person. I understand you identify as a different gender. Do you believe someone could identify as a different ethnicity? Do I believe they could? Yeah, sure. Do I think it would be exactly the same thing? Obviously not, right? I think gender and ethnicity are two very different things, like for obvious reasons. They share some similarities, I guess, but ultimately, um, I don't remember the original point I was going to make, but I do know what point I want to make now. Ethnicity is a weird one to compare to gender because, like, ideally, we really shouldn't have any, like, I'm not saying it's wrong necessarily to have just like a few presumptions when it comes to meeting someone that is from a particular country. You meet from somebody from Germany, I guess it's fair to assume that they've probably eaten a bratwurst or two. You meet somebody from, I don't know, Iran, I guess it's probably fair to assume they've eaten a shawarma or two. You know, there are commonalities that exist with different ethnicities, but they're already very transient. I feel like our culture already recognizes ethnicities as like a complex thing, that there are multi-ethnic people who represent different cultures, that there are multi-ethnic people who feel themselves just a part of one culture. There are multi-ethnic people who don't consider it at all. And I guess in a way that is kind of similar to the gender conversation, because like there are people that don't feel like, obviously they're like for the most part just cis people, but then like there are people who were born assigned male at birth like me that feel like a woman, you know, that are living as women, and people born assigned female at birth that are living as men, and there are different positions that someone can land on that like gender spectrum too. But ultimately, our culture has a lot harder time grappling with these differences than we do the differences in nuance in different ethnicities. You can't have a conversation with them, so you hit them with body shaming. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty low sign of intelligence if you literally have no argument but you fat. It doesn't exactly speak well to the quality of your arguments. I was born with such a small penis, the doctor had my parents choose my gender. Yeah, and that happens. Like that's like you're not the only person that was born that way. Intersex people are more common than people realize. All of this stuff is way more complicated than we give it credit for. Ultimately, I think if someone was like a white person and they're like, I'm transitioning to blackness. I think I would probably laugh. Maybe I would be a bigot to do so. I don't know. I guess it just seems like so absurd to me, and it's not exactly something I've ever seen covered in the literature. So I don't really have an argument against it other than it just seems like they're two very different things. But it's definitely something I should like read more about. I don't know. I'm sure there's some kind of book that I could read that probably tackles this exact concept. Like, really, I just need to read some books on intersectionality because I bet that would cover it. Like, maybe even like a more basic one that just illustrates like the differences between these different concepts. They all think God has bigger plans. People just can't fathom the thought we're here for no reason and suffering for no reason. Well, we are here for no reason, but we're not suffering for no reason. We're suffering to provide profit for billionaires. Remember, your suffering is not for no reason. Your suffering is for a horrible, sinister reason. Suffering does not have to be the lot of the human race. I genuinely believe this. I do not agree with the Buddhists when they say that life is suffering. I think that life is full of different experiences. Some of them will consist of suffering for sure. Most of them, though, I don't think most of them will. I don't think most of the experiences you can go through in life are what I would categorize, at least, as suffering. There is real suffering in the world, and we should work to reduce it. But for the most part, if you look to see it, life is full of all sorts of beautiful little things and wonderful little experiences that you can engage in. How crazy is it to you for people to identify as different ethnicities? Is how crazy it is for people to identify as different genders to us? Well, the difference is, like, people identifying as different genders is, like, widely backed up in scientific and medical literature. As far as I know, I'm going to be real with you, Chief. As far as I can tell, people identifying as different ethnicities is just kind of like a 4chan meme that people toss at trans people as if it means something. I mean, I engage with it because I engage with everything, at least on some level, seriously. But if we're, like, dropping kayfabe and being real, it's very clearly just a meme. Like, no one actually thinks that's real. Like, no one thinks that, like, being able to, like, change your ethnicity is real. You could say the same thing about gender. I mean, you could, but you'd be wrong in that instance, so... I don't know. Can you change your ethnicity? I want to. Now we're asking the hard questions. Can you? Not should you, but can you? I guess it depends on the degree to which you're willing to go. I mean, one could argue Michael Jackson did it, right? One could argue Michael Jackson did the, like, transracial thing. No, that's a joke. Obviously, Michael Jackson was not identifying as white by the end of his life. But I suppose if you really did want to do that, I think you probably could, like, mimic the stereotypes associated with these different cultures, maybe. But even then, like, local ethnic culture is going to differ from, like, the broader culture of a racial group or a nationality, which is probably what somebody's going to end up doing if they do something like that. So can you? I don't know. Maybe. I think it's funnier to think about than it is, like, practical in reality. Okay, I need to go get sticks. So I will be right back. Oh. Ow. Are you breakable? No. Oh, maybe. Healthy train. Ow. Ow. Fuck. That hurt. That's definitely too fucking... I found one that is definitely too dense for me to break. Yeah, I think it is anyway. So instead, I'm going to use it to do a little bit of fire trolling. And then I'm going to stick it on there. Oh, oh, oh. Okay. Okay, there's that. Actually, that might just be better as a troll pole, come to think of it. I'm not going to stick it in the fire. Oh, Mr. Jolly, 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 banana. Daylight from the new one home. That'll do it for a while. Oh. I'm sorry, y'all. It's taking me a minute. Now I am struggling for breath. I had to step right into the smoke. Okay. Gender is fluid and people can act the way they want anytime. That is actually true. Yeah, that is scientifically verified. Yeah. Bro removed bro's comment. Bro, I'm gonna need you, bro, to get another word, bro, beside bro in your fucking vocab, bro. Because right now, bro, it just sounds like, bro, you don't know, bro, how to fucking talk, bro. Like you need to fucking, bro, like every fucking time that you, bro, would normally add like a punctuation mark, bro, or something, bro. I don't, bro, know if, bro, you know how, bro, that annoying, bro, is, but it's fucking stupid and you need to cut it out. So what is feeling like a woman like? It's nice, I guess, because like I felt alien trying to be a man, and I don't feel alien now living as a woman. So of course, you can always ask a question. That's what this stream is for. By the way, we've been so anemic on donations tonight, but you guys are only $200 away from getting a documentary watch through with your girl Phoebes. You guys have until Wednesday night to get those in. You're also only $100 away from bad food, which is awesome. What documentary? The Power of Nightmares by Adam Curtis. It's available for free on here on YouTube, so I think I'll be able to get away with it. Why are you doing this? Because I have fun with it. Why do we do any of the things we do? Because we enjoy it on some level, right? Damn it. Well, that didn't work at all. Ah, fuck. How long is this fucking piece of shit? Damn it. What have I done? Oh no. No. I'm fucking up the fire. I'm not trolling it. Oh. Oh, god damn it. Motherfucker. Whatever. Give me 1 second. I gotta get up again and tend the fire. What did I just knock over? Whatever. Okay. Ow! Man, I wish I could see out here at night. Okay, finally. Now we're good. At this point, one must ask, is the fire really worth it? Yes, it truly is. And besides, if I hadn't, in my hubris, thrown the sticks so hard at the fire, they wouldn't have skipped off to the side and had to be rearranged so delicately. The chat sucked. You didn't miss anything. Well, the last few times I've checked into chat, it hasn't had, honestly much to say. By the way, I do have the guitar out here, and for $10 or more, you can unlock that as well. That's like an ongoing and persistent dono goal. I'd be a better president. I don't know. While I appreciate the endorsement, I don't think that's actually true. I feel like I know just enough to get me in trouble, you know? I feel like I know just enough to be able to talk about this shit pretty competently, but not enough to run the country. I mean, that's why I think Donald Trump is such a sour fucking pick for presidency. And I don't think he's, by far, like, the most reprehensible fuck in his administration. He is reprehensible, don't get me wrong, but there are even worse villains in the Trump administration than Trump himself, if you can believe it. And I guess I'm more worried about them than I am the big man himself. But I do think that he's an underqualified presidential candidate. What was he before he was president? A fucking celebrity, basically. He made his money throwing his name on shit and being a New York City power broker, who's born into that wealth, by the way. If we want better presidential elects, the people need to lift better people higher. I actually do agree with that, but we need to consolidate around what a vision of better means. And I don't feel like we have as Americans. Like, even if there was like a 2/3 majority on that, I would feel like that was okay. We can work with that. Like, all right, if a third of the country doesn't want to come along at first, well, that's how it was during the New Deal. But now most people would never go back on the progress made during the New Deal. So I think we have to consolidate around a vision of what the fuck better means. What do we as Americans want to see happen? One of the reasons why Occupy Wall Street failed is because the goals were vague and non-specific. But a movement like that could be massively successful if it consolidated around a set of policies that could be enacted by any government that was simply pressured by the people enough. Look at chat, we know facts. Throwing your lot in with the majority is never the most intelligent thing to do, unless you're talking about the majority of scientists or the majority of lawyers on a matter of case law or something. I guess there's a few instances where throwing your lot in with the majority makes sense, but this is not one of them. You realize my chats attract some of the dumbest people on the internet? You included? Some of the stupidest motherfuckers you can find online find their way to my chat. Less than 100 people watching you. Who is dumb again? Says the motherfucker with a W as their profile picture and not a goddamn thing on YouTube. You gotta love that. 0 view Andes that don't even have a presence online coming into your live stream to tell you how you're fucking it up. That has got to be the richest shit that I deal with on a daily basis. Hell yeah. Let's get that big old stick right there. Now let's do that. Yep. And now, nice. Oh my god, look at that. How's the Halloween party? I wouldn't know. This is how I live my everyday life if I can. If the weather's okay and I'm able to, I like to have a fire. I guess it's kind of a flex these days, though. So I do feel bad. I honestly do. I legitimately do feel bad that there are not more people in America able to enjoy this fundamental luxury of human life. Sitting next to a crackling fire, having a nice conversation. How often does the train wake you up? Never. Very used to it after many years. I'm sitting here streaming. Why would I be eating fucking marshmallows? Huh? I'm sorry you're very alone and angry. I don't know, man. Feels like a little projection. I am alone in the sense that there's no one else out here right now, but I'm not, like, angry. I feel like overall I'm pretty chill. I do wish I could remember what the fuck we were talking about before I had to step away to tend the fire and get sticks and everything, though. I do wish that. Are you at summer camp? I'm 27, so a bit old for that. You do seem angry. I agree with her comment. What am I doing that seems angry? These are the kind of people that are scary. If I'm scary to you, you are a pussy among pussies. I'm just going to be real with you. If you're scared of my fucking doughy ass, you are a fucking pussy among pussies. You are like the village pussy. You are a walking vagina if you are scared of me. Oh shit. My worst nightmare is that I get stuck in a coughing fit like that, and I don't remember to hit the mute button, or I think I hit it, then I look back over here, and it's not hit. That'd be horrible. Gotta keep that momentum on the fire. Mm. Bro, where are you? Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy? Donate, please. You guys are only $100 away from reviewing some bad food with me on a desktop stream at some point next week. Quick reminder, just so you know, just so it's out there. Also, $10 or more gets you the guitar unlocked, so it's a worthy consideration. How was your childhood? I mean, it alternated, I think, like most people's. It was pretty good, though. I feel like, okay, it was good, but weird. I will tell you this much. I have a childhood that I feel like is very unlike other people that are my age. Like, okay, so all of my siblings, except for one, were older than me. So I had like three older siblings, and the youngest of my older siblings was like 10 years older than me. So I was like, as a kid, being like raised up in all of the things that they thought were awesome, which varied. So like my youngest, oldest sibling liked a lot of stuff from like the 90s and the early 2000s. So I have like some of that influence in my childhood if I look back on it from her. And then my oldest sibling was very into like stuff from like the early 90s and the late 80s. So there was that kind of interplay, but also some stuff of the early 2000s. So it was like very interesting from that point of view. There's also the fact that I think my parents' generation might represent the last generation of like average, everyday, even like poor Americans being like regularly able to own their own business. Because when I was a kid, they did. Um, I don't want to go into the details of what exactly they did, but um, it was like a small business that was like dependent on local traffic, and it was like really successful. Eventually, my parents ended up divorcing, and I went to live with my mom up in Missouri, and that was different. That was like when I was 14. Big culture shock because I'd grown up in Mississippi my whole life, but it was ultimately for the better. I ended up falling in love with Missouri, exploring the far corners of it, and coming to like really appreciate the fact that I ended up spending like pretty much, I don't know, like 2/3 of my childhood in Mississippi, and then the remaining third I spent in Missouri. And I felt like that was a pretty good like preparation for what has been the rest of my life, which has been a lot of traveling around the country and seeing a lot of different people, interacting with a lot of different types of people and stuff. I feel like I was prepared well for that. But, like, I don't know. We, despite the fact that my parents owned a business and it was, like, pretty successful, it was the kind of business that just does not, like, make a whole lot of fucking money. It's not like, I mean, I guess it does at the very top end, but like a lot of businesses, the people at the very bottom are just getting by. And we were really just getting by. And I feel like the type of poverty that I grew up in probably, thankfully, doesn't, I'm not going to say it doesn't exist in America anymore. It certainly does. But it exists, I think, to a, I don't know though. You know, it might actually be more common than I'm giving it credit for. It might just look different now. I don't know. You'll have to ask me more specific questions, I guess. You're just getting me reminiscing now. This boy was so depressed on living off his mama. You are a literal perfect representation of the projection-laden moron, omnipresent now on social media, thinks they know everything, extrapolates their life situation onto yours, thinks all of their problems are your problems. And if you had anyone that gave a fuck about you or what you have to think or say, you'd be talking to them right now, not engaging with me, who clearly doesn't give a shit what you have to think or say about a goddamn thing. I never would have guessed that Missouri, that's all meth, not nerds. No, there's meth and nerds. There's even methed out nerds, if you can believe it. Missouri's got all kinds, friend. If you think it's nothing but meth, you haven't seen enough of Missouri. Here's a little adage about Missouri, and I don't know if I coined this or if one of my dirty kid friends came up with this or what, but if you think that Missouri is nothing but meth problems, you haven't seen enough of Missouri. But if you think Missouri don't have a meth problem, then you ain't seen Missouri at all. I've been to towns that meth and, frankly, opioids have just eaten away at, completely destroyed. And I've been to towns in Missouri that seem to be doing pretty okay. Might have a little bit of that drug problem, but it's not ubiquitous. I think it really depends on the size of the community relative to the amount of economic opportunity available nearby. There's some communities in Missouri that have stayed small relative to the amount of economic output around them, and as a result have remained relatively stable and shielded from a lot of these problems of poverty. There are pockets like this all over the Midwest, but there are also a lot of pockets of just utter and complete garbage poverty, where the jobs went away, and then there was never a program to relocate those people into the city or to build new things in their small towns or even to just give them a fucking UBI so they can, so that the town can survive its death and then die gracefully and become like a relic in history. Like, hey, people used to live here. And maybe if somebody wants to build there eventually, they can buy some land from one of the farmers that have bought up all the surrounding properties. But I think that ultimately, that is why we need to look at policies that redistribute wealth in ways that affect every fucking American. Things like rebuilding our infrastructure, things like a UBI, things like a food stipend. Imagine this. Here's a crazy radical leftist thought. Imagine if you had a right to a house. Wow, that was deep. I'm set back. Give us more of your wisdom. I feel like you're probably being sarcastic, and I'm not really trying to be deep. That's just the situation. As I see it, there's a lot of poverty in this country and it needs to be addressed. And you can kind of see what works already if you look at different localities around the United States. And of course, if you look to our neighbors across the pond in Europe. Europe has had a lot of these problems figured out for fucking decades. And as a result, their population and their country and their GDP and everything has seen gains from adopting those policies and those ideas. Make sure you guys hit that like button, by the way. Let's get us up to 50 likes. We're only 11 away. Who Who would be paying for these houses? The American taxpayer, of course. But that would include corporations and billionaires now. Presently, it includes them to the most limited extent that they can make it. There are corporations, there are major corporations in this country that have paid effectively $0 in taxes for years and years. Big companies like Walmart, Amazon, Microsoft. We're talking some of the country's biggest fucking companies. Some of the most economically productive fucking units in this country are getting by paying effectively nothing, giving nothing back in meaningful tax contributions to the society whose roads they use, whose education system they are reliant on to educate their workers, whose hypothetical universal healthcare system they would be reliant on to make sure that their workers stay healthy. Like, they need to pay. They're going to have to pay. I'm sorry, we have to have a wealth tax. We have to have a wealth tax just to settle the fucking existent, like, mismatch between how much our different social programs cost and our subsidies cost and the military industrial complex cost and everything else, and how many taxes we take in. We currently have to fucking, like, print more money pretty often just to fucking invent a way to pay for these services. We have to constantly borrow. We have to constantly, like, it's all coming to a head if we don't issue a wealth tax. If there is not some kind of progressive tax system set up in this country. And this is not just some crazy lefty talking. There was a billionaire, I forget what show he was on, I think it was MSNBC, talking about, like, yeah, I mean, a lot of people aren't going to like to hear it, but, I've looked at the numbers, and it just seems like there's no other way around it. If we don't have a progressive tax system put in place, the entire system is just going to collapse under us eventually. And the American economy will take years and years to recover. The American worker will suffer most of all, but even billionaires would suffer in that instance. Goes on to explain the whole thing, does so very calmly, but with the removed calm of someone who could ultimately survive it. But he explains that even billionaires would see their wallets and their holdings and the value of what they own pretty severely hurt by the fallout of what would come from complete loss of faith in the American dollar, or the bottom falling out of everything because we just become completely insolvent. How do you even have mods? Because they love me? You'll never get that, unfortunately. Money is overseas. Make them bring it back. You can make them bring it back. We could start locking these people up. Let me tell you a little story about a country. Let me tell you a little story about a country called Iceland. When a financial crisis hit Iceland, they didn't just, like, when 2008 hit, they didn't just, like, fuck around and bail out the banks that failed there. No, they put them motherfuckers in prison. They put their bankers in prison that let that happen. Those who were not complicit were spared, but those who participated in helping to crash Iceland's economy were punished. We could do that here in America. Will we? I don't know. It seems to me like America has a can't-do attitude anymore. Anytime I talk about something, sorry, can't do that. No can do. Universal healthcare. Sorry, just not enough money. No can do. Rebuilding our infrastructure. Sorry, man. I mean, it would be beautiful, but no can do. Just not enough money. Building high-speed rail in this country. Oh, man. That would be so expensive. Oh, that's the craziest thing yet. Oh, I wish we could. It would be beautiful, but sorry, can't do it. Okay, well, how about we just tax fucking the wealthy so we can at least cover our bases where we are right now? And maybe we can build off of that. Nope, sorry. No can do. That's all people know how to say anymore. It's the only It's the only phrase in their lexicon anymore. Sorry, can't. And, well, can't never could do nothing. You're like Phoebe's. Yeah, you're like my little minion. Yeah. Leering centers are a reality. Bro, you guys saw one misspelled sign on one fucking daycare and you guys flipped the fuck out like there was a 9 fire and the biggest conspiracy since the JFK assassination. You guys need to chill the fuck out, bro. Dude, if I knew that a fucking misspelled sign could get you viral on the internet, oh man, I would have put up some fake ass building and slapped some misspelled sign up on it years ago. You know what'd be really funny though? If the daycare was actually called like Leering Center because like that's the name of the person who paid for it to be built. What if that's the case? Like I don't know that I don't think the news agencies dug enough into this story because would I would be willing to bet that there is some kind of reason for that. And the more reasons I conceive of that would be innocuous, the funnier it gets. Like, what if the fucking inn? What if the inn just burned out? Like, the inn just, like, burned out or fell off one day. And so they moved the other letters over so that it would, like, kind of look okay from a distance. You know? What if they were installing the inn and it fell and it broke, but there wasn't enough money in the budget to buy a new one? That actually would be really funny, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be if it's all just like a big misunderstanding and it's like, oh, no, it's called the Leering Center because it was, Sir Joseph Leering who donated the money from all the way over there in England. We don't know why, but yeah, Sir Joseph Leering paid for the building of this daycare, so we called it the Leering Center. So all our food is poisoned? What? No? Huh? I mean, I don't know where you're getting that from. Like, yeah, mass processed food, like mass produced, heavily processed food, like ultra processed food, it's not exactly good for you. And the more of it you eat, the worse it is for you. But like, what are you talking about? Is that what you're referencing? Because that's a damn far side from it being poisonous. It's not poisonous. It's not like if you eat too many fucking ho-hos in one sitting, you're just gonna fucking fall over and die. As you can imagine, I've had many sittings with a box of ho-hos, and I have yet to die from it. What are we even talking about, guys? What is even going on? I look to the chat for guidance. I see very little. Who will be the American Napoleon when the elites are eaten? I don't know, man. Gavin Newsom, maybe. No, I don't know. It's gonna have to be somebody with like a fierce personality. That's part of the reason why Bonaparte worked, right? As a like a political figure or whatever. It's because he had like that sort of like domineering personality. I don't know. Is that just like the myth making of Napoleon, or is that real? I know his opponents always frame him as like an ill-tempered little short man, but his proponents always frame him as like this like revolutionary guy who is like so bold on the battlefield, yada yada yada. I imagine the truth is somewhere in the middle. No, Napoleon was very extravagant. Okay, cool. Right. Awesome. Okay, so I was right. Yeah. That is one thing. I mean, I guess you can tell one of the things I've noticed about learning about history is that you can kind of tell sometimes the truth of a situation by looking at the common threads between different perspectives. And I've heard like I don't know, I've got family members and stuff that watch crime shows sometimes, and I've like overheard those, and I've heard detectives and shit talk about how like you can kind of use that to piece together like the truth of, or perhaps a common thread of truth of like different witness statements. But I don't know that it's completely dead set accurate. But looking at different perspectives, like when it comes to Napoleon, for example, his detractors and defenders both portray him as a pretty like extravagant and bold person. It just depends on how they frame that boldness and extravagance. Napoleon said history is agreed upon lies. Most people think Nero played a fiddle when Rome burned, but the fiddle wasn't invented until 10,000 years after that. The myth comes from a movie. Yeah, literally. Um, and actually, fun fact about the Roman fire that Nero was accused of not responding to, it was actually one of the few things that he did handle well, at least as it was going on. When he got news of the fire, he rushed back to Rome and set about the work of, getting the fire under control and everything. The problem actually came after the ash settled. He started erecting a bunch of buildings in his own name and basically using the destruction as an excuse to rebuild Rome in Nero's image, basically. It's think about like it's exactly what Trump would do, except Trump would also fuck up the fire response. It's like if Washington D.C. burned to the ground. You think that motherfucker would be rebuilt according to the founding fathers' wishes? Hell no. Literally, they would relay the streets to look like a fucking picture of Donald Trump from space. I'm not even kidding you. If Washington, D.C. burned to the ground, Donald Trump's administration would make absolutely sure that the entire site was razed to the ground, and in its place was built a city that resembles Trump from the fucking International Space Station. And that's basically what Nero did. Not literally, but, Man, can you shut up about the fucking Jewish conspiracies and shit? It is so weird to hear people talking about that seriously. I gotta be real with you. I didn't grow up around that type of hate. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like by the time I was coming up, white racists in the Deep South had figured out different ways to frame their hatred, and I don't ever remember Jews coming up. But now I'm almost 30, and now I've got to regularly battle anti-Semitism. Fucking doesn't make any sense. Although, you know what the fucking funny thing about it is? Like, if you actually did think that there was some, like, secret cabal that was ethno-religious in nature that controlled everything, wouldn't it be, like, a better idea to, like, try and get on their good side and be, like, an ally and shit? Now, obviously, there's not. So I guess it's kind of a stupid hypothetical. But wouldn't it be more rational to be like, powerful allies? Yeah, man, I just don't know if I can get behind the secret cabal posting. It's just stupid. The cabal is not secret, it's billionaires. They are the ones who want to dominate your life. They are the ones who want to set the fucking... They're not just are the ones who want to, they're the ones who do. Billionaires are the people who determine the limits of your wages, the limits of your benefits, the degree to which you can advance in society. They are the people with the power to lobby the politicians, to guide the corporations, to buy their way into power. Anyone telling someone else they need to get a life needs to get a fucking life themselves, frankly. There's no better way to tell the entire world that you are a lifeless motherfucker than telling somebody ain't done shit to you to get a life. What's your opinion on Charlie Kirk? I think he was a backwards, bigoted moron, but nevertheless did not deserve to be shot dead like a dog on the street. And who gives billionaires tax breaks? The government that we don't hold in check. Are we all in agreement in this? Are we not? I feel like it's pretty simple. We've got structures in place that are meant to prevent this from being such a problem. It's a problem in spite of those systems because we've completely taken our hands off of the wheel. We've walked away from the machine and we've let it continue churning on its own. And occasionally, every so often, almost like it's an afterthought, we press a little button. Every so often, we walk into the booth, bleary-eyed, rubbing our faces. We press a button, almost absent-mindedly, and walk back out, off to not worry about the machine again for another 4 years. It is due to that cyclical ineptitude that we have allowed our systems to be completely captured by billionaire interests, and it will require active participation from all of us to set things to rights. It's not going to happen magically because we want it to. Would that it could. Okay. Now I need to go get some more sticks. I'm here to cause a ruckus. Okay, Taylor, be ready to cause a ruckus in like 5 minutes. I'm gonna go get some sticks. Yeah. probably only got a few minutes to do it because the fucking the battery's only got 24% left. So, but I mean, I have a charging brick. I just have to switch it over from the gimbal to the phone, and then hope that the gimbal doesn't die before I'm ready to be done streaming. Sitting in that chair is not good for my bones. Okay, we got another relatively big stick we're gonna put over here. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to take the setup with me actually, because I can barely see. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. Now I can actually see what the fuck I'm doing properly. And I see why I was see why I was having so much trouble. Because all the appropriately sized sticks are over here. Ow. Okay. I always underestimate the size of the wood pile I'm going to need for one of these streams. Always underestimate. You would think eventually I'd learn, but I don't. I guess I'm just stupid like that. Oh, that looks like a good stick. Yes, that's perfect. I think the vibe is still chill. It's just, we gotta dig out some wood from the wood pile. And I don't want to be managing a giant cadre of massive sticks. So, gotta find smaller pieces. And that can be kind of a struggle. A lot of the smaller pieces are trapped under bigger pieces right now. Although we do have a small handheld chainsaw that I could use to break some of this stuff down further. Okay, that's about Alrighty. Now, I think we've got enough to last us another 20 minutes. Ow. Okay. Alrighty. Let's get set back up. Okay. Okay. Sorry that took me so long. Now I just gotta build the fire back up. Alrighty. Napoleon Bonaparte, Short King, dead maxing. Nice. Thank you, Nambot, for the $5. I appreciate that a ton. Hell yeah. I was beginning to wonder if you guys even liked me anymore. But that restores my faith in the chat. That does. That does it. A real G, Nambot. Yeah, I agree. Chuck Norris sucks. Fuck Chuck Norris. He was a lame ass. He has got an overwrought legend about him. Yeah, he was a shitty ninja. You guys know what we're gonna have to do in a second? Oh, you're gonna hate me. I'm gonna have to step away for a second and grab the grinder because I want another bowl. Because clearly I'm not stoned enough. I hear all the hype, but nothing to back it up. That's exactly my problem with Chuck Norris. It out to be, then, you know, why does he need such a legend if he's all this in a bag of chips besides? Now the real question is, can I get up there and back without a light? I think the answer is yes. I will be right back. We're back. Don't you fucking tell my mods how to moderate, kid. Hate that shit. There's a reason why they're on the mod team and you ain't. Them froggies are looking for some poo nanny. Yeah, they are. They really are. The frogs are horny tonight for sure. It's crazy. They're not as horny as they have been lately, though. Honestly, I'm surprised we're not hearing any spring peepers or like bullfrogs or anything like that. I guess it might be a little early for them. I can't wait to go to the first ball at the White House. You don't know, like they've had balls there. They've just had to set up like a outdoor ballroom. Yeah, as a servant? What do you mean? Yeah, that's actually the superior point. I didn't think about that one, but yeah. What do you mean? Stream normally doesn't run this late? No, I don't know what it is. I'm just I'm looking for something, I guess, out of you guys that I don't know if I'm getting, but here I am looking for it. I don't know. It's one of those nights where I know if I went in there and tried to sleep right now, I'm not gonna sleep. And I just want to talk to people. It's the relentlessly social nature that I have always embodied. Let's see here. Can I make this brighter? Easier on myself? No? Fuck. God damn it. Yes. No. I guess I can do that. Okay. Now that that's done, talk to us. Yeah, I just don't know what we're gonna talk about, and that's kind of the problem, right? I'm the streamer, so I'm supposed to like have a topic, but right at this second, I kind of don't. I mean, there are things I'm interested in talking about, but did you guys hear about Trump saying that he's going to send ICE to the fucking airports? He's like basically threatening the whole country with, I guess, being fucked with by ICE if the Dems don't come over on this funding package, which I think is incredibly fucking funny because it basically just confirms what lefties like me have been saying for like, I don't even know how long, that ICE is Trump's private army for him to do with what he wishes. Basically, that's what he's turned it into. Do you have any media you like? Any media? I mean, I've got all kinds of media I like. Can you perhaps narrow the scope of the question? Like, I like movies. I like a few TV shows. Although I don't like watch a lot of TV these days. A couple of podcasts I watch. There's some YouTube people that I pay attention to. I read sometimes. I'm trying to give you a topic, girly. Movies, I guess. Aw, poor Margot. I'm making Margot do all the heavy lifting. I don't know, man. I'm not trying to come at you guys like, oh man, provide all the content for me. I don't want to do any reflection or whatever. I'm just like in a mood and I don't quite know what really to do about it. Hold on, I'll feel better after I pack this bowl, but I can't do it in the dark. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me 1 second. Oh, god damn it. Fucking gimbal. Piece of shit. Okay. Fuck. Oh, god damn it. I ain't gonna lie, this ain't the best fucking trimmed shit I've ever smoked. Hold on. Alright, so my gimbal died. At least I think it died. I'm gonna try and reset it. Okay. I'm sick of sequels and reboots. It's all slop. Yeah, I think that's why I was a little reticent to talk about the media topic at first, because genuinely, Can you just turn off, please? Sorry. I'm going through it. Anyway, I too have sequelitis. And besides horror movies, I really feel like there haven't been that many new concepts, and certainly no alluring ones that have burst onto the scene, as near as I can tell, in the last couple of years. Like the superhero thing was cool for a while, and then it wasn't. And then westerns were a thing for a while, and they still could be. But I haven't heard about one getting made ever since Rust got shut down. I'm sure that they have been, but I don't know. Seems like spooky movies are pretty much where it's at for new and interesting ideas in film right now. Highbrow horror is very popular, yeah. And I think it's good because there's new ideas being explored there. There's new franchises maybe being created. We do need some new blood and like in film in terms of the not new blood. I don't know. Sorry, I'm distracted by a satellite. I'm not like the most critical viewer of movies, so I'll be real with you. I can talk about them casually, but I don't want my fucking stupid bullshit to be misconstrued as criticism. Because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I have not sat down and watched a new movie in probably 2 years. I've kind of become set in my ways, honestly, come to think of it. Like, there for a while, I was discovering all kinds of new music, and during a certain period of my life, I just couldn't find enough movies to watch. And there was even a point in my life where I was like, um, trying to not necessarily have, but play and enjoy as many different games as I possibly could. Damn it, why is the smoke going right in my fucking face? That is one thing that would be so fucking different if, like, dude, oh, if I ever have the money, I would have such a nice little fucking spot. I would want a backyard that I could, like, screen in effectively. Not an entire backyard, but like a back patio area that was either just naturally kind of screened in from the wind and all that, or that I could screen in quite easily. Because I get sick to death of the smoke just blowing heavy in my face. It's one thing if it like kind of wafts towards you and you can kind of just lean away or whatever, but when it's like breezy, even a little, and you don't have enough, stuff around to block the wind, fucks. Have you seen Hidden Fortress? That is an amazing movie. Life can be a dog sometimes, yeah, or it can be a slog sometimes. Hello, Matt. No, I've not seen Hidden Fortress. Um, I don't know. Hmm. How are you tonight, Phoebe? I'm okay. It is a pretty great movie. If you have HBO Max, you can watch it now. I don't. I don't have any of that shit. I don't know. It ain't really been in the budget this year, but maybe at some point later in the year. I don't know. I feel like I don't know the thread in my mind that keeps replaying is me saying a second ago about how I feel like I've become set in my ways. I really feel like I have, and I feel like that's not good. But God, I get so irritated sometimes when I go outside of it. Not always, but I swear sometimes I'll think, okay, I'm gonna take a chance on this. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good, and then it's just dog shit. And this happens with all kinds of media TV shows, movies, podcasts. And so I end up just going back to something I know, I've watched a million times, but I need to not be that way. I need to challenge myself, I guess. I'm such a habit-oriented person, I guess. I personally don't think we are at World War III yet, but it's very close. Do you think Trump would taco on nuke threats, or if the generals in the room would stop him? Yeah, I think Trump would taco on nukes. I don't think Trump is going to use the nuclear football. Maybe I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time old Phoebes was wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the nuke is the last thing any country wants to use, even a country as roundly stupid as America has become. And really, it's not America that's stupid. I guess it's the leader, leaders. But it's the leaders. It's not necessarily the country itself, but like even Trump and co., stupid as they are, ill-informed as they are, true believers though they may be, I do not think that they will be able to amass the political capital needed to convince them all, basically. I feel like in order to convince everyone that would need to be convinced along that chain of command to do the nuclear option, you would have to have such an overwhelming amount of political will towards that, or I don't know, some kind of bug out plan that even you and I can't, like, we couldn't imagine in our wildest dreams. And I just don't think it's possible. I think they know that if they launch nukes, then there's a lot of other countries that are going to get involved too, probably. But I don't, I don't know for sure because there is the, well, he's a crazy motherfucker element, right? I don't know for sure because there's always that element of like, well, he could just decide, well, like what if he just strong arms the people he needs to into being like, well, honestly, why do we always assume they're gonna nuke us back? They might, but they also might just be like, well, I guess it's okay to let America get this one. We'll save our nukes for some other opportunity. And I would hope that the generals and the people who would have to obey that order and everything else would consider it more deeply than that, but I don't know for a fact that they would. It's largely an assumption on my part. Well, the people made it possible for Trump to happen, even leftists in the Dem Party. Trump is everyone's fault. Well, it's not just Trump either, you know? But yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't know if it's the left's fault because the left really hasn't been, and I say that as a member of the left hasn't really been like actually, truly politically relevant on the national stage in at least uh, 20 years, maybe more, maybe 30 or 40 or 50 years, even. I guess it depends on what you want to consider left. Certainly, Obama did some engagement with genuine progressives, but I think that you would have to probably go back to like the 60s or 70s to see the last time like the actual left was being engaged with on a national level. Pretty much for the last 50 years, it's been nothing but like moderates. And ever so often, like a genuine hard rider. But for the most part, it's been moderates. And like it sucks, but it also means that we don't necessarily have to blame ourselves, in my opinion, for Trump or the current state of the world because I mean, we do, though. We do in a certain way, but I think it's a hard thing. I think the blame is less assigned to the broad overall left than to some other movements like the Democrats and the Republicans who had active control over the political machines that run the country, and the billionaire class. Obviously, I think they bear the brunt of the blame. But as far as like political factions that could be blamed, there is something to blame the left for, which is that I don't know that we have. In fact, I know for a fact that we have not been very good at providing a cohesive message that is easy for the average everyday person to get behind. I mean, there's elements of leftist messaging that are very easy for the average person to get behind, but we need a cohesive message, one that says, like, I get it, you're worried about the bathrooms thing. Honestly, like, it doesn't seem like it's that big a deal, but I feel like we can adjudicate that after we get a living wage. Because right now, like, nobody's policing the bathrooms, right? And pretty much nothing's happening, so we can leave that. We can set that on the shelf, and I feel like if we had a cohesive message that illustrated how economic improvement and economic justice would lead to social justice, I feel like we'd be able to get a lot more success. But our movement is fractured. Our voice is indistinct amidst the din. What do you think of that Japanese PM doing the bidding of Trump and then Trump bringing up Pearl Harbor with her? Oh, it's perfectly in character with Trump. It goes back to what I've said this about Trump, and I'm pretty sure that TJ has also said it about Trump. And I'm pretty sure that we're not the only two. But Trump sees everybody, and it might have been Kyle that said that. I don't remember. But Trump sees everybody in terms of winners and losers, suckers and successes. And he views the Prime Minister of Japan as a sucker. He doesn't understand Japanese culture. He's got no frames of reference. He's got no touchstone, basically, to use to ground himself in any perception of that country's politics. And as a result, he in his mind has no reason to fear her as an adversary or to respect her as a world leader or anything. To him, she is just some Japanese peon that he has to deal with in order to get to his next McDonald's meal. And that's why he brought up Pearl Harbor. It's a I fucking own you kind of thing. It's an I care. It's and it probably I don't even think it was an intentional thing, but I think it was a I feel so cavalier about my country's relationship towards yours and our position of dominance that I'm just going to casually joke about how you once bombed us, which also is casually joking about the American response, by the way. You need to know who America is. America's a bunch of stupid sheep who'd bomb your country to smithereens over nothing. Because Japan ain't attacking us, bro. It ain't 1945. There was no reason to make a joke like that, except for establishing dominance and implanting in her head a reminder hey, we got nukes. We've got a navy. Better keep doing my bidding. It's a sick, twisted thing to do. And if I thought it would lead to long term positive outcomes for everyone involved, I guess I'd probably be less opposed to it. But we know from experience that American presidents acting this way with world leaders and other superpowers and shit just does not end well. But whatever, there's no teaching people. The burn at hand teaches best. The burn at hand teaches best, and unfortunately for us, the stove only gets turned on every 4 years. At least he did not bring up little boy and fat man. Basically, don't support China. Yeah, exactly. The only way Trump could have made it worse was by being like, some people say I'm a big boy, but they don't know about what was it? No, some people have called me a fat man. Some people say that Trump is a fat man, but you would actually know. Japan would know better than anybody. We've got a fat man and a little boy. He could have done it, but he didn't. Thank goodness. Instead, he just joked about them bombing us, which is perhaps even worse, because then you're joking about the American reaction by implication, which seems to me worse than just doing it outright. Anyway, I guess we're about to have to get off here soon. Big boy, little man. Yeah. Big boy and little man. Tell you what, the stars are beautiful tonight. Absolutely beautiful. What I wanted to know is what happens when South Korea and Japan and all those smaller neighboring countries are like, fuck it, China is easier to deal with than America. Well, there's already been signs of it happening. That's kind of the scary thing. Like, I think that there is a tipping point at which the United States is no longer the optimal trading partner to have, and where they will decide to start having a relationship with China. And who the fuck knows? Maybe it'll work out better for them. Maybe China will allow them to have more independence than they currently have. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But eventually it's not going to make sense for them to remain in the block of countries that is represented by America. Because it's very clear that America is only looking out for America's interests, and if you don't actively want to play into that every moment, of course, who knows? Maybe they will. Maybe they will. This Japanese PM doesn't seem like she's, um, you know, rejecting anything the Trump admin has asked her to do. So maybe she's the key to getting more American hegemony in Japan and in Asia by extension. But I think it ultimately depends on whether these countries work with us. Authoritarians like the ones in power right now expect total dominance and control, total agreement, which is not what I imagine Japan is usually accustomed to. But maybe I'm wrong. Was there any word on China trying to take back Taiwan with the U.S. busy with Iran war? Or was that just speculation? It was just speculation. Look into this phrase, China's final warning. It'll illustrate a lot about the Taiwan problem. China's not taking Taiwan. China's not taking Taiwan. It isn't. China wants to pressure Taiwan into rejoining the mainland. But Taiwan doesn't they fucking don't want to rejoin the mainland. They're happy being their own country. They're perfectly happy being their own country. And I mean, in theory, the Kuomintang wants to retake mainland China, but in practice, they don't have a military. So it's like there's no actual political will or even machinery to make it a reality. And while I would probably agree, like if a Chinese politician were to be like, well, Taiwan is really just it's a Western puppet state used to keep pressure on us, I would be like, yeah, I mean that's at least one of its you know reasons for existing, sure, yeah, but what actually does what threat does it represent? Because the only way that we could ever move on, I don't know, like trying to install a Western backed Chinese government is if massive societal collapse happened in China. So it's almost like an insecurity of theirs that they keep trying to go after Taiwan. But it shows you how little they are willing to put towards it, or perhaps how cautious they are on the world stage. The fact that they go about it the way they do. But that's why every time there's an uptick in fucking warplanes seen around Taiwan or an uptick in warships seen around Taiwan, it's always this big news story. But nothing ever happens in that respect. Maybe something will eventually happen, but I don't think it's going to happen. The United States likes getting cheap electronics from Taiwan. Taiwan likes being independent of the, you know, Chinese People's Republic or whatever it is. To Wayne, dude. And we aren't looking out for American interests? No, of course not. When do we ever do that? Looking out for American interests? What are you, a hippie? Get with the program. You're supposed to join the war effort. I can't wait to go camping this year. It's about to get warm enough. I personally think having happy neighbors is looking out for the best interests of America, but I could be retarded. You always have to think that is possible. No, I actually agree with you. Um, I do think it's good to keep neighbors happy. I don't know if you mean like locally in a neighborhood or like on the national scale, but either way, I agree with you. Yeah, communities should look out for one another, and the nations of the world, I think, would do well to look out for one another. Can you believe I used to think they did that when I was a kid? Man, I look back and I was such a little optimist when I was a kid. And I look back now and it seems so absurd, but oh boy, I thought that people were pretty much always good. That a bad person was like a pretty rare thing. Not just that people are good by default, but that bad people are outright rare. uh, how wrong I was. Well, I guess maybe I'm more of an optimist than I give myself credit for. In truth, I think there aren't that many truly bad people out there. I don't even know what a truly bad person means on the universal scale. Obviously, I know what it means societally. Within the context of our country, I know what a bad person is. I'm within the context of my morality. But like, I certainly now look at it with a more dismal light. And I'm like, yeah, I think a lot of people are capable. I think everybody's capable of being like that fucked up person. That not everybody does it, but that everybody's capable of it. And that it's a fucked up but important distinction. Um, what else was I gonna say? Fuck, I don't remember. Read the chat. I don't know if politics or the economy entered my mind until my early teens. Before that, it was chicken, cow, horsey run around on my farm. Then it was, Mommy, why is the landlord taking our farm away? When I was young, I used to think the world was wonderful, beautiful, magical. Yeah, no, me too. Me too, yeah. Life was actually so fucking beautiful. But honestly, a lot of this is just like the nostalgia of childhood. The thing that I feel like so many people in our generation, all of you listening, because we're all basically the same age, we're within 10 years of each other. I feel like the thing that we're missing out on that our parents got to experience for the most part is homeownership and the hope of upward mobility. Not necessarily even, not even necessarily homeownership, really, but it's just like that feeling of upward mobility, the feeling that there was opportunity, that it could be, you could strive for it, and that if you played your cards right, you could eventually have some pretty cool shit. But so many of us are approaching our late 20s, early 30s, late 30s, even in some cases, with almost nothing. And that's horrifying to think about. I mean, there's like an entire generation of people coming up through the system that are not doing that great. That's like giant fucking percentages of these generations. Gen Z, millennials. Man, I believe in this fucking place. I do. I believe in the country that I live in. I believe in the power of our neighborhoods. Some small part of me even still believes in Mississippi. But man, I feel like it just goes to rot. Worse and worse every year. And literally, if you bring up the things that we would need to do to right the boat, hell, half the people you talk to will just dismiss it out of hand. They'll just dismiss it outright. Yeah, more than half the people. Hell, look at that, a spring peeper. But I would say 2/3 of the people you'd probably hear say some variation of would be nice but can't. Maybe 1/10 of the people would be like, oh, that'd be horrible. We can't do that. Honestly, those are less of a force than just the stubborn people that feel like, oh, yada yada would be nice, but we can't do it. I feel like that. I genuinely feel like can't is a more dominant and operative political philosophy in American political discourse and development than any other single concept. We've all adopted the mindset that we can't. Every single one of us. From the lowest janitor to the highest politician. We can't. 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 We will keep repeating we can't until we grow hoarse. If people stop trying to be hustler garbage, we could do it. I agree. I 100% agree. I want people to stop loving millionaires and love the homeless. Yes, 100%. Then and only then will we be an America we can be proud of. 100%. I'm not even saying, like, I'm not trying to be a doomer here. I'm not saying there's no hope. What I'm saying is that we need to change our tact. We need to start confronting this can't do attitude. We need to start doing what Kenny just said and saying, no, the homeless are human beings too. And they deserve our love and empathy and kindness just like anybody else. Iranian kids are fucking brothers and sisters in the world. We need to stop treating them like garbage. We put a fucking man on the moon? Exactly. That's why Obama won. He said we can. Oh my god. And honestly, I hate to give the old bugger credit, but he was right to fucking identify that as a common thread to fight back against. He was right to identify that as a common thread to fight back against. And he was right about that tendency in American politics. Because we can is the obvious refutation to the mindset I'm talking about. We can't. The answer to we can't is we can. Now, Obama didn't, but that doesn't mean we couldn't. He's not the only fucking politician out there, for Christ's sakes. America's golden age happened in the 50s, actually. This is the Gilded Age 2.0. Yeah. Yeah. You ever wonder why the Gilded Age is discerned from the Golden Age? Because it was gold on the outside, but it was built on a framework of iron. The Gilded Age was defined by structures of wealth upheld by working class people, average, everyday workers like you and I, and at the top were the robber barons, the richest people in our society. Rich beyond your wildest imagination. So rich they could buy entire railroads. So rich they could buy not just a factory, but massive factory complexes, multiple in a year. Slowly but surely, these men consolidated every bit of financial and transportational and manufacturing power underneath them, and eventually even agriculture became something over which they had dominance. But all of these systems of labor all of these instruments of wealth, all these things they looked at merely as things to generate money with, were jobs, actual factories, actual farms, actual stables, and transportation companies, and railroads, and everything else. These were people, regular people, that had to do these jobs and were paid so fucking little to do them that in a lot of these industries, people lived in horrible conditions. For decades, there were no protections offered these people. And we are living in a decade, we are living in an age, not just a decade, because it's going to be longer than a decade. We're living in an age now that's very much like the Gilded Age of before, where there are structures of wealth that are pretty much divorced from the people who work to keep them up. Our wealth is not affected one bit by the wealth that we create with our labor. And the people at the very top enjoy lives that we couldn't even begin to imagine, much less live for a moment. Phoebe, when did you wake up for your sweet dream of adolescence? As I said, mine was being kicked off the farm. My parents divorced and me moving to Missouri. That was it. Literally. That was it. It was a transformational moment. And everything since then has felt, it's felt like it. There are moments like that, though. I don't know. Not just in a human life, but in history. This is actually something interesting we can talk about before we get off here. In history, there are these things, I think Derek Jensen calls them fulcrums of change, but I did a search on the phrase the other day and I couldn't find it, so I may have just made that up and attributed it to him. So I'll say I call them fulcrums of change, right? Which is the idea that there are these moments. And when I first started thinking about this and heard, I think it was Jensen talk about the theory, or whoever it was, at first I just connected it to 9/11. And then I was like, well, maybe the pandemic. And those were my two like, big moments. And I still think that they are really big moments. But if you actually think about it, fulcrums of change and these big, like, I don't know how to put it, these big turning point events, the big ones, the really major ones, pretty much always cause smaller ones afterwards, like aftershocks after an earthquake. And we hyper focus on the big ones, but a lot of times it's the smaller reverberations that are really the instruments of change, the instruments of enshittification in a lot of instances. I think sometimes we hyper focus on preventing events like that, like the ones I'm describing. But really, what we should be doing instead is like, yeah, I mean, sure, prevention is good, but you don't focus on prevention so hard to the degree where you don't prioritize survival at all. And I feel like in a lot of ways we haven't prioritized like survival when it comes to how we look at these decisions and shit. In a lot of ways, it seems like we haven't learned our lesson. I'm not sad right now, but I don't know if I would call myself genuinely happy. Yeah, America changed for the worse after 9/11. You know why? Because from the 60s to the 90s, real change was happening. We were getting there to an idealized America. Then 9/11 destroyed it. I don't think 9/11 destroyed it because I don't think this might actually be interesting for us to talk about sometime on stream, Matt. I know I have to get off here soon, but we'll talk about it a little here. Um, I don't know that it would have actually, because like yes, change was happening throughout those decades, even into the 90s. But it was already slowing by the 80s. Really, the 60s and 70s was the big, that was the last big, real, giant fucking upset before this most recent, like, last 10 years worth of bullshit. I feel like the 60s and 70s was the last big shakeup. And then obviously the 80s was the Reagan era, but there was still lots of activism going on. The queer movement arguably was at its peak as far as like, or I'm sorry, the queer movement was at a peak in the 80s in a lot of ways. There were a lot of people getting to know about it and getting to care. And the AIDS epidemic actually brought a lot of attention. It brought a lot of hate, but it brought a lot of attention too. And so there was change on that front. Um, change when it came to immigration and how we looked at immigration in certain ways. In the 90s, there was like all of these police brutality reforms, but also the crime bill. At least there was momentum. Momentum. Felt like we were going somewhere, but while that momentum was building up and while those things were happening, we were also dealing with wages that were starting to stagnate. Like, even back then, right? Like, the cost of living has been creeping up. Well, I mean, the cost of living is always creeping up, but it's been creeping up at a higher rate than wages for like 50 years now. So it started back in the fucking 70s. But it didn't really make that much of a difference until the last 10 to 20 years. Now is when people are really starting to see it, and now they see it worse and worse every year. Now the rate of the cost of living is going up so much faster than people's wages that it's absurd. But my point is, there was internal turmoil developing throughout this time as well. I feel like we look back on those times with a lot of hope, and we should. We should try and learn from those times. But I feel like we also need to remember that there were a number of things that happened that kind of prepped us for the response that we had to 9/11. Keep in mind that a U.S. embassy had been bombed by bin Laden and co. in Tunisia, I think. and somebody had flown some planes into the, or a plane or something, or no, it was a car bomb. I think somebody tried to detonate under the World Trade Center. It was like wild, but the idea that terror was becoming a real threat was being implanted in the American consciousness. This is one of the reasons why I want us to get to that goal, by the way, because I want us to watch The Power of Nightmares because it talks about this. Um, the idea that terror is something we needed to be terrified of was something that, like, different aspects of the American government had been trying to get American citizens to believe for probably 30 years. But it's something that we had a very hard time getting people to believe. We really couldn't really convince people that Russia was a state sponsor of terrorism because everybody that was pointed out as a quote unquote terrorist being supported by the Soviets, the American left was able to illustrate how that was really just a like guerrilla group fighting to preserve its homeland, or like it's the present and stable government just fighting on for existence or whatever. Um, we were able to put up a pretty cogent fight domestically against that messaging, but we were still having that message beat into our head all the time. And eventually, if a message is beat into your head enough times and you've heard it enough times to make it familiar, and then you see some evidence of it, well, it's going to be your first thought, even if it was something you would never would have believed before. Well, it 100% stalled out and we derailed. That derailment is what I would personally call MAGA. Before 9/11 was great because we were changing and making efforts to be better. After 9/11, we as a people just started being fearful. We thought we were untouchable. Hard lesson to learn, no one is untouchable. Well, yeah, we had built up this perception of untouchability, but we had also been propagandized to believe that the only people that do want to touch us are these scary Muslim terrorists. And that, man, it really is an example of keeping the fight on until you finally create conditions conducive to making what you want to happen see on the world stage happen. What you want to see happen on the world stage, sorry. Point is, they did it. They were very effective. And yeah, 9/11 is a fulcrum point for that reason, because it was 9/11 that allowed them to capitalize on that 30 years of propaganda. 30 years they'd been telling you to fear Muslims, but this was the first genuine reason they were able to present anyone with. I don't know if you were too young, Phoebe, but everyone was out for blood at the time. All we wanted was to make whoever pay. Well, yeah, no, for sure. And part of that, I think, what I wasn't. I mean, I was around, but I was 3, so I don't remember that necessarily. I mean, I do, but I remember things after tensions cooled. I started tuning into political conversations probably when I was like 5 or 6, but I don't remember much about them until I was like 7 or 8. By that point, 9/11, was 5 years ago, so at that point, people were less bloodthirsty. But um, I've read the news. I've seen the newsreels. I've seen the talking heads. I mean, hell, there are videos on YouTube that are of media released at that time, as far as like newsreels and stuff like that, where you can tell the bloodlust that was like omnipresent in the country. So yeah, I get that. What I wonder is where that came from. I think your theory that it was like untouchability, I think that is part of it for sure. But I think another part of it was the propaganda. Just being, we were handed this enemy on a silver platter, and we were so ready to go after it. And we didn't consider the consequences until it was already too late. Man, I will tell you what, this is fucking completely random, not relevant at all. But like, I want some fucking Asian food so fucking bad, dude. Oh, next time I get paid, I just need to get me some cash out so I can go to like, the Chinese place that I really like. Oh, God. I was 2 when 9/11 happened. I was 3, so. But on our world, all we want was almost say just like whatever. What's like what Derek just said? Violence is only allowed in one direction. I want some cream cheese wontons. Me too, me too, me too. But yeah, Derek Jensen pointed it out. Violence is only allowed to flow in one direction. So if you're a smaller country, you can't attack a bigger country. You have to attack countries smaller than you. And you certainly can't attack one of the world powers. It's funny. As an example of how Derek Jensen is so right about the direction in which power is allowed to flow and violence is allowed to flow, um, small countries, usually satellite countries of one of these big superpowers, but these smaller countries are usually held to pretty rigorous human rights standards and judged pretty harshly if they don't follow up with them. They are condemned harshly if they attack any other countries or if they engage in any kind of war. But the countries that really dominate the planet will just do that shit on a random Tuesday for fun if we want to. Oh. Yeah, I want wontons. Me too. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and go. You guys just got me thinking about food now. Oh man, I'm so fucking hungry. I do have like most of a burger left in the house, but look, dude, I want more than a half a burger. I want like, man, what I want is some beef and broccoli. To be fucking real with you, I want some beef and broccoli and some pork fried rice, but I ain't gonna fucking get it now, am I? I would do unholy things for some beef and broccoli and some pork fried rice. Someday, dude, I think about this. It's a fantasy I have, unironically. Sometimes I think if I'm ever wealthy enough, it would be kind of cool to live nomadically because I could legitimately, like, decide to stay in, like, I could decide what campgrounds I stay at for at least part of the year based on how close they are to big population centers. And like a lot of these big population centers have somewhere in the city where you can park an RV and like some little camp spot or something. Sometimes it's not in town, but a lot of times it is. And I would love to be adjacent, even if I had to spend a week in a motel or something, dude. I just miss being on the road sometimes, even though I was broke back then. And this, the only reason is because it's the same reason I fucking miss living in a city sometimes. Because god damn it, dude, when you want stuff like this, whatever. I don't have the money right now, but if I did, it's fucking 3 in the morning. But you know what? If I lived in a big enough population center, there'd be some place open selling noodles. There'd be some place open selling takeout Chinese. I guarantee it. I just don't live in a big enough population center or near one. Love you, Phoebe C. Yeah. Phoebe, we have such similar tastes. I love beef and broccoli. It's like the only thing that is somewhat healthy and can get with my diabetes. Nice. That's good. It is really delicious. It's awesome. My go-to is beef and broccoli and cream cheese wontons. Yes, yes. I like the artificial crab meat wontons, but yeah, just plain cream cheese is nice too. Or not plain cream cheese, but with the scallions and shit. But yeah, beef and broccoli is nice. I will be honest though, I am not a diabetic, so I can eat all kinds of Chinese meals. I like beef and broccoli, but I also really like General Tso's chicken, even though I know it's not real, fucking Chinese food. Um, let's see here, sweet and sour chicken. Once again, not real Chinese food, but real fucking delicious. Um, let's see here. There's a lot of the weird, like Chinese stir fries that I like. I don't know the name of all of them. But most of the time, if you chop up some veggies, cook them in Chinese spices and oils and shit, and serve them to me with a fucking hot bed of pork fried rice on the side, I'm gonna eat that shit up quite happily. I don't necessarily need to know whatever complicated name you guys pegged on it. Just give me the picture menu so I can point at it like a 12-year-old. You can totally make wontons at home or even air fry cooking with Phoebe before I load barbecue pork bones. Trust me, I will eventually be doing some cooking with Phoebe videos. We just need to do some renovations in our kitchen and shit, basically. But no, I made homemade egg rolls actually, and they turned out great. I mean, the flavor is kind of different. I definitely need to get a hold of some Chinese ingredients like some sesame oil and shit like that, to like make it better. But for what I was able to do, I think it actually turned out fucking awesome. Like, they taste healthy. They're not full of grease. They fry up nice. I do worry that they are going to not cook up very well from frozen. Dude, I made some homemade mozzarella sticks the other night, and those bitches turned out so fucking good. They're like the best mozzarella sticks I've ever had. Vietnamese summer rolls with spicy peanut sauce. I love those. That sounds so good. The main thing you need for Chinese food is a fuck ton of oil. Not gonna lie. Right on. Man, why does Chinese slash Japanese food taste so much better than boring Western food and Indian food too? Dude, Indian food, Mexican food, Japanese food, Chinese food. I think it's because, like, here's the thing: there are really delicious American foodways. There are really delicious American foods. It's just that, like, the foods that are representative of American culture are kind of bland if you think about it. Like, even ones we all love, like burgers. If you think about it, a hamburger is one of the most bland fucking things you could possibly eat. It's like salt and pepper, maybe a little garlic powder and onion powder if you're lucky, maybe a little meat tenderizer or paprika or something. But it's ground beef, heated up, ground, grilled or smoked or whatever it is. There's only so many ways you can do it, and at the end you end up with a piece of meat between two pieces of bread and some veggies on top of it. It's just a sandwich at the end of the day. It's a fucking sandwich. And it's arguably not the most complex or, you know, overwhelmed with flavor sandwich that there is out there. In fact, if you want to dress up a burger, there are all kinds of ways to do it that make it something almost different, right? But the point I'm getting at is like, you think about what foods are popular and common in Indian cuisine or Japanese food or Mexican cuisine or whatever. Any of these different regional cuisines, all of their popular foods, or at least the ones that broach Western audiences, are not that way. They're just not bland. They're very complex. And it seems like most of their food is that way, honestly. From what I can tell, pretty much all Indian food has lots of spices and yummy shit in it. Same thing with Mexican food. Near as I can tell, pretty much everything pretty much everything's got something to it. Double smash burger with American cheese is delicious. I agree. It is very delicious. I'm not trying to undersell the burger. I'm just trying to illustrate how, a burger is a way less complicated dish than a curry, for example. Only steak is good with salt and pepper, lol. Eh, I know this is a fucking hot take, but I think sometimes steak benefits from a little more than salt and pepper. And I think that there are some things that just do benefit from nothing but salt and pepper. Grilled asparagus is my favorite one to bring up. I like to basically, do a few little dollops of olive oil over a tray of spinach. You cut the hard parts off, obviously, but you take that spinach and and then you get it all coated with a little bit of olive oil. You don't want to overdo it, but then just salt and pepper. Maybe if you've got one of those dried garlic and herb seasoning mixes, you can hit it with that, but salt, pepper, and maybe a little garlic powder if you want to be fancy with it. But you don't have to, and it will turn out like delicious as fuck just with those ingredients alone. I live in Canada where the meat is way better, no offense. Our lowest standard for beef is your highest one. Ah, fuck you. That's probably true, though. Whatever, man. America fucking sucks. Why you gotta rub it in my face? I don't want to be fucking rich, but I do want to be wealthy enough to be able to, like, have a delicious steak in Japan, Canada, Great Britain, Germany, and France. If I can have a delicious steak in all fucking 6 of those countries, I will consider that to be fine. That's a goal reached. That's a bucket list item. Because I want to fucking test it. I want to see which country has the best cows. France talks a lot of shit about their cows. Germany does too. So does Britain, Ireland, and fucking Scotland. The Canadians, the Japanese talk the most shit fucking of anybody. And yeah, you know what? I want to try a fucking steak in Australia too. I already know what Mexican beef tastes like. They sell that shit in the grocery stores up here. I love Vietnamese green chicken curry. Oh, that's so spicy, it's delicious. That sounds really good. Daniel, you are a Canada apologist. LOL, even if it was bad, it will still be good. Yeah, exactly. Even if it was bad, it'll still be good. Kobe beef, some of the best, but the best is Scottish beef, actually. Oh. Well, I guess I've learned. Isn't it true that Wagyu actually, like the Kobe beef, descends from a combination of Scottish stock and Japanese stock, or am I getting that mixed up? Why would you ruin a perfectly good steak with horseradish? Save that shit for the roast beef sandwich. I'm not saying horseradish doesn't have its place with beef, but fuck, the steak? Really? That shit's always fucking confuddled me. I think that's right. Neat. I looked that shit up. It says the grading system is essentially the same. Canada just does older animals. Oh, interesting. So you're saying you got older, fucking tougher, more crone-like cows. So you got Joe Biden cows that you're eating on, is what I'm hearing. I'm just an old cow that can hardly eat grass anymore. Ass cows. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you. Some people say that it's actually like a really cool experience to eat beef from an older beef from like 10-year-old like retired dairy cow or something like that, because like the longer an animal lives, the more of the like flavors that we associate with its meat accumulate, I guess. It's fucking gross to think about, but it's, I guess, food science. Yay. It's weird to think about. I'm not even gonna lie. The vegans have me there. I'll admit that they're right on that, if nothing else. It is weird. I'll grant them that. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and go. We're just sitting here fucking talking about cows. God, the vegans want to say that we're not a predatory species, but we're all sitting here literally at 4 in the morning, just like literally dreaming, fantasizing about chewing into the flesh of a bovine. It is pretty comical if you think about it. The FDA's highest grade is only AA here in Canada, you guys. It qualifies as AAA. Uh, what? Okay. Donald Trump was the best thing that's happened to Canada. You all stop dating each other and hating Americans. You're welcome. And you know what? With that, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys for hanging out. It's been a real one. Bye.